What if the Pentagon's most expensive defense project isn't a shield at all, but a fantasy dressed up as science? Right now, Washington is asking for a staggering $25 billion in just the first year of something called the Golden Dome missile defense system. On paper, it's supposed to protect America from the ultimate nightmare: hundreds of nuclear missiles launched at once by Russia or China. The pitch? A 99.999% chance of success, intercepting hypersonic warheads, decoys, and unpredictable re-entry vehicles in real time. Sounds impressive, right? But here's the problem: even your Wi-Fi can't guarantee that kind of reliability.
Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to talk about the proposed Golden Dome missile defense system. There's a request to spend $25 billion in this year alone. First of all, is this system designed to intercept a full salvo attack?
Senator, it's a multi-layer system that would include different types of salvos. Obviously,
so it's not
system,
just Rogue Nation. Okay.
And,
so
well, it's meant to. Yes, it's not meant to be just one nation. It could be utilized in
against Russia
scenarios.
or China, full salvo. So what kind of reliability are you aiming to build into the system? Are we looking for something like 4 nines on intercept success? 99.99% reliability.
Obviously, you seek the highest possible. You begin with what you have and integrating those C2 networks and sensors, building up capabilities that are existing with an eye toward future capabilities that can come online as quickly as possible, not just ground-based, but space-based.
So against future capability too. So do you believe that we can build a system that can intercept all incoming threats? You think we could build that system? This is a very hard physics problem.
You would know as well as anybody, sir, how difficult this problem is, and that's why we put our best people on it. We think the American people deserve it.
So let me tell you what I think we're facing here. You're talking about hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, varying trajectories, MIRVs, so multiple reentry vehicles, thousands of decoys, hypersonic glide vehicles, all at once. And considering what the future threat might be, it might even be more complicated than that. And you're proposing spending not just $25 billion, but upwards of, I think CBO estimated this at least $500 billion, other estimates $1 trillion. I am all for having a system that would work. I am not sure that the physics can get there on this. It's incredibly complicated. So I want to get to another issue that you're facing here. How much of the staff of the Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation did you cut?
After collaboration, sir, with the service departments, the Joint Staff, and others, we identified that as a place where there were redundancies and multiple additional layers that were unnecessary.
I'll tell you what you cut. You cut 74%.
Most of it. That's what I was going to say.
Most of it. And was your decision to cut more than half of the Pentagon's Testing and Evaluation Office staff driven in part by concerns about the office's plan to oversee testing of Golden Dome?
The concerns were not specific to Golden Dome, sir. It was years and years of delays unnecessarily based on redundancies in the decision-making process that the services, COCOMs, and the Joint Staff, together with OSD, identified as a logjam that was not helping the process.
To get the reliability we would need, you need something that's at 4 nines, 99.99% reliability, with all these challenges. And you cut the staff of the people who are going to make sure this thing works before we make it operational, before we give it to the warfighters. You got to go back and take a look at this. But I also strongly encourage you to put together before we spend $25 billion or $175 billion or $563 billion or $1 trillion, put together a group of people to figure out if the physics will work. You could go down a road here and spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayer money, get to the end, and we have a system that is not functional. That very well could happen. And you're doing this just because the president, and I understand your role as the Secretary of Defense. You got to execute what the president says. But this idea might not be fully baked. And you can get in front of it now and figure out and find out if you put the right physicists on this. And I'm not saying go to the big defense contractors. I'm going to scientists, and I know there's a questionable relationship with this administration and scientists, but go to some scientists, figure out what we would have to do to build a system, and then make smart decisions before we spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars.
Senator, we're doing that, leveraging existing technologies and not premising the project on aspirational technologies, what we can actually do, and would welcome.
Well, $25 billion in the first year is a lot of money. That's more than just figuring out if we have the ability to build a system that can handle a full salvo threat, hypersonic glide vehicles, MERS, thousands of decoys. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator Kelly. Senator Sheehy.
So why are we gambling trillions of dollars and our national security on what critics are calling nothing more than a high-tech fantasy? The Golden Dome is being marketed as the miracle shield of the future. Officials say it's not just about rogue states or small-scale attacks. No, this is the big one. A promise to stop the kind of full-scale nuclear barrage we'd face from Moscow or Beijing. Imagine hundreds of intercontinental ballistic missiles fired at once, each one splitting into multiple warheads, some real, some decoys, some hypersonic gliders twisting unpredictably through the atmosphere. And in this nightmare scenario, the Golden Dome supposedly catches them all before a single warhead reaches American soil. The number they're floating is near perfection, better than the reliability of the best commercial airlines, better than the stability of the internet, better than just about anything man-made. It sounds like the kind of promise you'd expect in a science fiction novel, not a Pentagon budget request. And that's exactly why so many people are raising red flags. Because here's the truth, missile defense on that scale isn't just a military challenge, it's a physics nightmare. Shooting down one missile is hard enough. Shooting down hundreds, all at different speeds, with decoys designed to trick the sensors. That's bordering on impossible. And we're not talking about a video game here. We're talking about real missiles traveling at thousands of miles per hour, maneuvering in unpredictable ways. The Pentagon may have some of the brightest minds working on this, but even they admit the physics is brutal. The system doesn't just need rockets, it needs flawless sensors, command centers that can process information in real time, and even space-based technologies that don't exist yet. So the question becomes, are we really building a shield or are we building a fantasy? And let's not ignore the cost. The starting price tag is $25 billion in year one alone. But analysts say the long-term bill could climb to $500 billion, maybe even $1 trillion. Think about that. Trillions spent on something that may never work as advertised. This isn't just expensive. It's the most costly gamble in defense history. And for what? If the system doesn't deliver on its promise, we'll have spent mountains of taxpayer money on what amounts to a giant science project. Critics call it a money pit wrapped in military jargon, served to the public as protection. And when you look at the details, you start to understand why. Complexity isn't just a hurdle. In Washington, complexity is often the point. The more complicated a project is, the harder it becomes to track failures and the easier it becomes to funnel money to contractors. In other words, it's not just a defense strategy, it's also a business plan. Now here's where things get even stranger. While the Pentagon is pitching this as the future of national defense, they've been quietly slashing oversight. The Office of Operational Test and Evaluation, the watchdogs who are supposed to make sure these systems actually work, lost nearly 74% of its staff. That's not a trim, that's a gutting. And it happened just as Golden Dome was being pushed forward. Think about that for a second. The very people who would run stress tests, raise concerns, and demand proof, have been cut down to a fraction of their original size. Officials say it was about reducing redundancies and streamlining processes. But critics see something more sinister. You don't downsize your inspectors in the middle of building $1 billion shield unless you're worried about what they'll find. If you were confident the system could work, you'd want more oversight, not less. Instead, what we're seeing looks a lot like sabotage dressed up as reform. And if oversight cuts weren't enough, bureaucracy has been another killer. Reports show that the Golden Dome has already suffered years of delay because of duplication and overlap in the decision-making process. Multiple agencies tripping over each other, making the same calls twice, slowing down progress while the price tag balloons. This isn't just inefficient, it's dangerous. Every year wasted is another year without a reliable defense system, another year closer to a scenario where all we have to rely on are promises. It's like building a rocket to Mars and forgetting to check whether gravity exists. The longer these drags on, the clearer it becomes that the Golden Dome is more about paperwork and contracts than actual protection. And that leads us to another issue. Who exactly is building this? Right now, the Pentagon seems to be leaning heavily on defense contractors, the same companies that profit whether the system works or not. But scientists, independent, unaffiliated experts, are warning that the physics just doesn't add up. Some senators are calling for the Pentagon to stop listening to sales pitches and start listening to scientists. Because if this project is being driven more by politics and profits than by proven science, then we're in deep trouble. This isn't a time for experiments. This is about nuclear survival. If the Golden Dome is nothing more than an illusion propped up by lobbying and flashy PowerPoint slides, then it's not defense, it's deception. And let's not forget the credibility problem. On one hand, the Pentagon is promising an all-in-one miracle system. On the other, they're piecing it together using legacy technologies that were never meant to handle threats of this scale. Imagine trying to duct tape together a pile of old smartphones and expecting them to perform like a supercomputer. That's what critics say the Pentagon is attempting here, slapping together outdated systems, giving them a shiny new name, and calling it innovation. But when the stakes are global annihilation, you can't fake readiness. You either have a system that works, or you don't. And right now, too many experts believe the Golden Dome falls into that second category. All of this leaves us with a very troubling question. Are we really preparing for defense, or are we preparing for failure? Because if the United States is betting trillions of dollars and its national security on a shield that might never work, then we're not building protection. We're building an illusion. The Golden Dome isn't just another Pentagon project. It's a symbol of what happens when ambition collides with reality, when politics outweigh physics, and when money talks louder than science. Supporters may wrap it in patriotism, but at the end of the day, patriotism doesn't stop missiles, physics does. And until someone can prove this system works, every dollar spent is another step deeper into the fantasy. So what do you think? Is the Golden Dome a visionary defense system that could one day keep America safe, or is it nothing more than a trillion-dollar illusion sold to the public with false promises? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is only just beginning. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the next story we're covering is even more controversial.